Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to Friday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. On today's show, we discuss yet another out of context tease from James Gunn about DC Universe. This time, it's a mysterious television project he's teasing. I think we all know what that is. If you don't, you haven't been paying attention. I'm going to tell you what it is very, very shortly. We're also going to discuss the nonsense that Variety was saying, aka Tatiana Seagull, the journalist, that WB are more excited about the Flash movie than they ever were about The Dark Knight. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we'll be asking, what does it take to make a great DC movie? You may need to de-rust because it's a long time since we've seen a great DC movie. It's been 2019's Joker movie, but we discuss what it takes to make a great winning DC movie that does well at the box office, but remains in the heart and minds of DC fans and general audiences. But first of all, James Gunn has yet again given us another out of context tease, something I've criticised him about time and time again. This time he's been telling us that he's very busy right now with Guardians of the Galaxy and writing an unannounced DC TV show. But what is James Gunn's mysterious TV show he's trying to tease us about? This is not something that's got me hyped. This is supposed to distract us from all the negativity going on right now. It doesn't work for me, but hey. So what is it? It's Checkmate. It's Checkmate is basically the Amanda Waller show, starring the brilliant lady who plays Amanda Waller in DC. You've probably noticed I've forgotten her fucking name. That's why I was about to announce her name and then I forgot her name. Maybe someone in the comments can just shut it down. I can't believe it. Listen, I'm feeling really ill today, but nothing is stopping me from doing this video. Never mix Cocoa Pops after having alcohol, a lot of alcohol, the night before. Oh my God, I feel like SHIT. Anyway, back to business. So yeah, I believe James Gunn's mysterious project is actually Checkmate. Now, Checkmate is brilliant in DC Comics. We even saw a little bit of it in live action in Smallville. Now, Smallville did a really, really good job with Checkmate. So this is the darker show that he was teasing for the last year or two, because after Peacemaker Season 1, he said he was doing something other than Peacemaker Season 2, which was a little bit more serious and darker. Can James Gunn do darker and serious? Well, we're going to find out. So yeah, I'm pretty confident this mysterious TV show, DC TV show, he is teasing is actually Checkmate, which should be good. But what this kind of proves, and why I'm alluding to this really, we need to talk about it because it's something relevant going on within DC. It's been another insane controversial week in the world of DC live action. That Variety article really put the cat amongst the pigeon yet again. It's pretty much an accurate article, and he didn't really debunk it. He debunked the Wonder Woman stuff, which is interesting. But we'll see. Will Wonder Woman be part of this announcement he gives next week or the week after? I want you to be absolutely clear here. The announcement we're going to get about DC Universe and DC Studios and James Gunn's and Safran's future plans is going to be a very small announcement. May not even be about the first 3 years like it's being teased. It may even be smaller than that. Gunn on Instagram on his story said it's a very small portion of his plan. So it could actually be very, very underwhelming. We'll wait and see. And so will Wonder Woman be part of these plans? Well, I tell you what won't be part of these initial early plans and announcements is the future of The Flash. Because this week, WB have very transparently been trying to tease the Flash movie in very different, deliberate, kind of clever ways. I don't really like to compliment WB as being clever, considering they are the dumbest studio in Hollywood, but they did purposely leak. Yes, they leaked. They purposely leaked a promo for the Flash movie, which is neither a trailer or a promo really. It's more like it looks like a Blu-ray physical media kind of extra where they're interviewing Sasha Calle, Andy Muschietti, Ezra Miller, and we do see some sequences. So it does look like some kind of thing you would see on a DVD, and it looks like they purposely leaked it. They're trying to now get the hype up. And it's no accident to me that Variety article was trying to allude that WB are more excited about the Flash movie now than they ever were about the Dark Knight. Do you believe that nonsense? Do you believe that shit? Of course not. Of course not. You know, this is a very desperate company. They've got these 4 movies that they need to make as much money as possible. You know, there's a future, next step, next gen plan from Gunn and Safran. It looks like, because this is, as Variety kind of said, this is not a full reboot. So these movies will have something to do with the future plan, I guess. But Mick, they've replaced Cavill as Superman. Have you seen anyone else replaced apart from The Rock? Well, he hasn't been replaced. They're just getting rid of him. They're not probably even going to deal with Black Adam at this moment in time. But Henry Cavill is the only member of the Justice League being replaced, although it'll be interesting what they do about Cyborg. Now, maybe Cyborg will just vanish and we'll never hear anything about him again until they let the dust settle on that character, and maybe they'll recast. So I think we're definitely heading for a multiverse strategy, new timeline like Hamada was doing. This is why I said months ago, nothing has changed, same thing. And it just looks like we're going multiverse and we're going to a new timeline, which will involve some of these existing actors as these DC characters. Obviously not Henry Cavill. So that's one thing to look out for as well, what happens to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, because there's some rumours out there, not very good rumours, nothing from Gal Gadot. She's not clarifying her position. She's staying really, really quiet. That's a suspicious situation as well. We're going to soon find out what's going on there. And so, yeah, that is nonsense. That is absolute nonsense that they're more excited about the Flash movie than they were about the Dark Knight. It's clearly not true, but the Flash movie starring the punk that is Ezra Miller, is one of these, lead weights. It's been holding them back for a long time. They've spent a hell of a lot of money on it and they need it to make a lot of money back. They're going to try their best to hype this up as an amazing movie. Now, it's certainly not a bad film. Andy Muschietti has done a really good job of it, and I think, hopefully, we're all going to enjoy the finished product. I think it will be great. I think it will be good. And it will be interesting how much money and how successful this makes and what people feel about Ezra Miller's performance. If he delivers the performance that I saw him deliver, right? So he is going to deliver that performance. And you guys out there agree that it's a great performance. Will you forgive him for his actions? Comments down below, let me know. Is there any chance of any forgiveness for Ezra Miller? Because a good movie and a huge box office could change everything. Now, for the part of the Variety article that claims that they're starting to feel the company, the studio WB, that they could keep Ezra as the Flash, again, this is the same kind of bullshit as saying they're more excited about the Flash movie than they were about the Dark Knight. Clearly, that's not true. And, if you were in charge, would you really be dumb enough to sack Ezra Miller, the star of this film, prior to the release of this film? Of course you wouldn't. They want you to think everything now in the garden is rosy. As I said the other day, they will deal with Ezra after this movie is gone, after the dust has settled on this movie. I don't believe he'll remain as the Flash, but who knows? If it's really successful, they could stay with him. It's a wait and see scenario. Now I'm going to ask you the question. What does it take to make a great DC movie? Generally, audiences feel that Superman the movie and The Dark Knight are the best DC movies ever made. And yeah, you can throw your favourite movies at me like Man of Steel, BVS, this, that and the other. And Batman 89, I think, can be called a great DC movie. So I think generally the three greatest DC movies that audiences know automatically and love: Superman the movie, Batman 89, and The Dark Knight. I think the others can be contested as good movies. I mean, the Joker movie is also a great movie, but I'm going to leave that one out of the list. But I think when you look at Superman the movie and The Dark Knight, they're uncontested as the two greatest, most successful DC movies ever made. So what does it take to make a great DC movie that lives long in people's hearts, minds and souls, like Superman the movie and The Dark Knight? You need a director who believes in the character. Christopher Nolan believed in Batman, but he doesn't believe he's a superhero. He sees him as a more reality-based character and really adapted him so. So he's very different to the Tim Burton Batman, but in terms of the costume isn't too far away than the costume that Tim Burton used in Batman 89. That aesthetic kind of remains. The darkness of the film remains. It's a very dark world, but it's a very reality-based film. Even in Batman Begins, you can see that, the kind of world that Nolan is trying to create. It's a very, very interesting version of Batman. Nolan has high action concepts in the film, but The Dark Knight is a really, really brutal movie emotionally for Batman. And of course, you've got one of the best versions of the Joker ever seen on the big screen or the small screen. This was Heath Ledger's final performance, and it's his best, and it will be never forgotten. And it's one of the reasons that this film will stand the test of time. So then we go to Superman the movie. Why is it seen as one of the best DC films ever made? And then I'll ask the question, how do we make films that good? Again, because DC really don't make films consistently that good, because it's difficult to make great movies, to make movies that live long in the history. I mean, you look at the MCU, I don't think there's one movie that can touch Superman the movie or The Dark Knight. Even if you're a Marvel fan, you have to be honest about that. Those films are going to be remembered in 100,000 years' time, if there still is a planet Earth and we ain't fucked it up and destroyed it by then. So, you look at Superman the movie, it was the first blockbuster superhero movie. I was watching a video, I don't know if you've seen these videos before. Basically, someone sits there and watches a film for the first time and reacts to it. So there's this young woman watching Superman the movie. And as I see her getting into it and loving it and saying she's so shocked how the effects were so good for the 70s and how she didn't really know much about Superman, but she was expecting very bad visual effects in the movie, and she thought the flying was beautiful. She loved how different Clark Kent is to Superman, and Ree's performance, how he hunches himself down when he's Clark and when he's upstanding and changes his voice when he's Superman. And I just started to cry to think someone from this generation actually appreciated what Dick Donner and Tom Mankiewicz created for Superman the movie. It truly is a universal movie that will never die in the hearts and minds of people. You just need talented people to make movies. You need to allow a director to make their movie. Now, Dick Donner had a lot of problems with the producers, the Salkinds. They wanted to make, it was their idea to make Superman, which was a groundbreaking idea. They did want to spend money, but Donner was really making such an expensive movie they were starting to fall out. But Donner wanted to make a great movie. And, it was his reputation on the line as well as the storylines as well. And ultimately, Superman the movie nearly killed Dick Donner. It was literally an impossible film to make in the 70s, but he pulled it off. The Dark Knight, when was that released? Was it 2012 or something? I can't remember now. But that film barely uses any CGI. Most things, like with Chris Nolan, are done in the camera. That's more expensive. That takes longer, but the effects of it and the final piece of work always looks better. I'm not really a fan of CGI, and if you gave me a choice, everything would be in the camera. And I believe you should never use CGI unless you have to, unless it's an impossibility, a physical impossibility in shooting it in the camera. That's my belief as a filmmaker, and I've been to film school as well. I think CGI looks crap, and when I see too much of it, I don't like it. I do like the way Snyder directs CG and how he uses it as a paintbrush, and it does look more aesthetically realistic when Snyder does it. But most directors, they're rushing the VFX artist. It just doesn't work for me. In the camera is always a cooler effect. So as I say, in the history of DC, the best, most successful DC movies are the ones where even a section of fans, like the Snyder Cut, Man of Steel and BVS, are appreciated, is when a director does something themselves, and you allow that vision to be executed. In the history of DC, the movies that have been kind of run by the studio and have been interfered with end in tears and are not good movies. I'm not talking about box office. I'm talking about films that live long in the memory. And there's a reason why DC have got more of them than Marvel. I think that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 are absolutely his movies. We know because Sam's told us Spider-Man 3 was not, and we saw the results of that situation. Personally, I think Spider-Man 3 is an okay, good movie, and I like some of the themes that are used in the movie, but I think the first two movies are something special. And the second movie is Sam's Dark Knight movie, if you like. But what you've got with Superman the movie and the Dark Knight, and they're both very, relevant in the history of movie making as well, not just for superhero epics, but you just need to have faith in someone's vision. And I think what we're doing here with DC is a very interesting situation. Now, James Gunn isn't very popular with a lot of fans right now, but it looks like DC, or should I say WB Discovery, at least have faith in the man to do his thing. Because let's be honest, it isn't really Saffron creatively who's executing this stuff. This is a vision from James Gunn. He's writing a Superman movie. He's writing an unannounced TV project. He's probably going to write most of them, slowly but surely. So I don't think they're going to be rushing a lot of projects out there. It's slowly but surely so he can craft the vision himself. So he is a visionary writer-director. He's not everyone's cup of tea the way he writes his movies and the humour that's in his films, his type of humour. But at least he's a person with a vision. And, he isn't perfect, and I don't agree with everything he does and says. And I do feel that he thinks a lot about himself. Because, let me explain to you, the biggest problem with entertainment today is the stan. The movie and TV stan, or stans everywhere with sports and everything. Stans are a problem. Stans ruin everything. And that's where we've got. Everyone's picking a side these days, and I think that's a problem. So you've got the James Gunn stans, right? But how do they help DC become good? That's the question I'd like to ask as well. So, at least James Gunn is a person with a vision. He clearly has a vision for Superman, and it's going to be very interesting if he pulls this vision off. It does look clear to me that Superman is the third thing that's going to land in the DC universe after this year's movies, you would imagine. And I'm fascinated to see how he does with it. So that's the secret of making a great DC movie like Superman the movie and The Dark Knight, basically. It's about taking something and, allowing someone to have their vision and don't interfere with it. In terms of DC Studios, it looks like James Gunn is going to be able to do what he wants. Now, I don't think it was his idea not to reboot everything. I think that was a Zaslav idea. And I think there are people who were involved with DC in the past as well who have got kind of voting rights here. And so there's obviously people behind the scenes. I think Emmerich is still involved. I think Hamada may even be involved quietly. So it's a very complex situation for James Gunn. But ultimately, all that stuff, Snyderverse versus Gunn and all of that, doesn't matter. Is he going to create a great DC universe that we can finally enjoy? We just don't know. We just don't know, everyone. And that's the question we ask here on Movies TV Mad every day. And we still do not know the answer. And until that's answered, we don't know. But we are very close to getting a small portion of announcements. And the reason you're not going to get a huge announcement is because Gunn wants to keep you on the hook. He wants the mystery. He wants to keep on keeping you guessing. It's the way to keep you all invested. It's a classic tactic in business. So you're not going to know everything, but you're going to know a little bit. And I can't wait for him to make at least some announcements about the future of DC Universe. It's been a whirlwind situation. He's been around for 2 or 3 months now. He has made waves, and he certainly needs to deliver something that works, or they really are in trouble. WB Discovery are a company huge in debt. They are trying to raise $3 billion. They are cancelling shows on HBO Max galore. Zaslav talking about that being the future of streaming. He believes there's not really a lot of money in streaming, and you have to go at streaming as a secondary project rather than something that you think is going to make you so much money, you ignore the cinematic industry. And I think definitely WB will be more focused on spending money on theatrical projects. I think that's the way they're going to go. So, yeah, I'm as intrigued and as excited as you are. I have been sometimes critical of James Gunn, and we're allowed as DC fans to be constructively critical of someone because we just don't know what they're up to. And they've just sacked the guy who used to play Superman after telling him a few months prior that he was back. That is a very, very messy situation. But the new guy, James Gunn, didn't want him. He was very direct with Zaslav, and Zaslav said, look, I support you, I believe in you, I have faith in you, and if that's how you feel, we won't do it. And clearly, Zaslav may have had something to do with that as well. We've discussed the low, box office of Black Adam. If Black Adam's a success, then The Rock gets the keys to the DC Universe kingdom, and it failed, and now he's out on his ear, as is Henry Cavill. So there is new leadership here, kind of. How much has changed at DC? Will they finally get this wonderful universe in live action right? Well, we're going to find out very, very soon with the first chapter of these announcements. And I can't wait to see what James Gunn has up his sleeve. This has been Friday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.